welcome back, or welcome if you're new to today's video. As you can see in the intro, in today's video, we are going to be refinishing or flipping this dining table set. So this was a set that was gifted to us by my in-laws. They were relocating and downsizing and wanted to get rid of this. So here are some inspiration pictures of kind of what I ended up landing on. So I wanted to take this from the kind of like orange oaky look that was very popular at the time and instead make it more of like a bleached oak, like a lighter finish. And my original plan was to do a bleaching process for the pedestal like base as well as the tabletop, and then do the chairs in a black. And I ended up doing like a pretty semi-gloss because this is a dining set. Obviously, it's used a lot and cleaned frequently, so that's why I went with like the kind of higher gloss finish. But anyway, so that was my original plan. I ended up moving on to plan B, as you'll see later on in the video. But we had this table for probably about 6 months, and I had been wanting to refinish it for that entire 6 months. I just don't love the kind of orangey oak finish. I really like oak. I think it's a really pretty wood. I just don't always love how it tends to pull pretty orange when stained. And this was a very popular dining set. You can still buy this set exactly as is. And it's great, a solid wood. I mean, it's a great piece, but it also expands, which is really nice. It has like a little center leaf. But it's just not the look that I love personally. I just don't really love the orange oak. So I was doing some research on possible techniques to how to kind of achieve the look I was going for. And I found that oak actually bleaches really well. I think it's because it's like a softer hardwood. And so the recommendation was to actually just literally apply bleach to get a lighter, to kind of get some of that orange finish out that it tends to pull. And then it really lightens up the wood. So that is what I end up doing for the refinishing project. So starting off with easy off, I was trying to see if that would be enough to strip it because the top had definitely seen better days. Like it's been used a lot, which is, the purpose of a dining set. And so there was a lot of the finish already missing. So I kind of thought I could get away with just stripping it with easy off, but it did not work. Some of the finish came off, but I did end up having to go behind with a layer of citrus strip as well. So that's what I'm doing here. I am finishing the stripping process by applying citrus strip, my favorite stripper, just because it's very low odor and it's still really effective. You do have to let it sit for a while. So if you've used this product and you haven't had success, make sure you're letting it sit for long enough, like at least 30 minutes to an hour. But anyway, so I'm getting it stripped, and then I'm going to move on to sanding. I did end up sanding. I did not sand the chairs because I was going to be spray painting them, but I sanded the tabletop and the base with, I'm pretty sure I did 60, 180, and then 220. As you'll see later on in the video, the finish did not strip off as well on the base. I had to do a lot of the sanding by hand on the base. It's very intricate. And if I was going to redo this, I would have actually just taken the top off and then put the pedestal base up on like a table to make the sanding process a little bit easier, because as you'll see later on in the video, I'm like crouched down underneath the table and it made it harder to do the sanding. Sanding by hand is hard anyway, like just at baseline, but it made it even more difficult because I was like cramped in a weird positioning situation. So it definitely did not help matters, but this was definitely a learning piece for me. This was actually, I think, my first venture back into furniture flipping. So to give you some background, first, let me start by introducing myself. In case you're new, because this is the first video you watched of mine. I'm Angela, aka Chefette of Chefette and Little. And on my channel, I post on Sundays, and I typically post DIY furniture flip projects like this, room makeovers, cleaning content, as well as some motherhood um, kind of tips and tricks that have worked for me, if that makes sense. So if that is content you're interested in, I would love it if you would subscribe, and you know, click the bell so you get notified of new videos. So it would be wonderful. But anyway, so kind of back to what I was saying. I did furniture flipping a lot in college. It's kind of when I got started on it, as a way to make money. I started this business when I was in college where I forget what I called it, but I would clean out people's like junk rooms. So people would hire me, and I usually had like a friend as like a cohort coworker for the day, but it was different friends just depending on their availability. And let's say they had like a really dirty garage that just needed to be cleaned out, and they just didn't want to deal with it because it's overwhelming. So they would hire me, and I would come in and I would clean everything out. So I would actually like clean the space, like with cleaning products, but then I would also kind of like organize the stuff that was in there and kind of sort through it for them. So I would sort through if it was like trash, and I would take it to the dump for them. And then if it was stuff that looked like it was worth keeping, I would set it aside for them and like let them look through it. And then if they didn't want the stuff, because most of the time they still wouldn't want everything that was still like usable. I was allowed to like take those items that they did not want to use, and then what I would do from there is I would flip those items and then resell them. So it was actually a really profitable business. I probably should have kept it up, but so I would get the initial payment fee of actually like doing the work, the service, and then hauling the stuff to the dump, because there's a fee when you put stuff in the dump. And then I would also flip the items that I kept, and that was free of charge. I was able to just keep the items and I had to pay for them or anything. And then so it was kind of like profitable on a couple different ends. And like I said, I really should have kept it up. But anyway, once I started in nursing school, life got like way too busy, and so I didn't keep it up. So I fell out of flipping furniture after I closed that little side business. And like I said, that was just like a temporary thing in college, and then short term thing in college. And then I lived in a townhouse for a long time, probably about 10 years. And so I just didn't have the space to like refinish projects. And then also, the other thing is, the space was a challenge, but I was able to work around it. But what happened is I just had bought all the furniture I needed. Like I got to this point where I had purchased and flipped all the furniture I needed for my home, for the townhouse. And I just kind of got out of the habit of like picking up pieces because I was like, oh, I don't need anything else. And I had kind of like moved away from like selling it as a side business. So anyway, that's a little background there. Okay, I'm back. Sorry. I don't know if you could hear that in the background, but I had a little friend come join me for a minute, so I had to take a pause from recording my voiceover. But anyway, so to finish up what I was saying, I had just kind of fallen out of the habit of furniture flipping, but I have always really liked furniture flipping. I love the idea of taking a piece that is like solid, well made, older, and refinishing it to your preferences. It's just really cool that you can really customize furniture that way. And then it also avoids pieces ending up in the landfill, which is, just not ideal. And then also, it kind of avoids the kind of like current day of like the fast, it's like kind of like fast fashion, but like fast furniture, where it's like mostly pressed particle board. It certainly has its place. I have pieces that are pressed particle board as well, and I will also refinish those. But my preference is to use these more solid pieces. Plus, this table is cool. It has like some sentimental value because like my husband grew up doing homework on it because it was his parents. So that's kind of fun too. It's like keeping those kind of traditions alive. I just think that's kind of like a fun little extra with that you get with furniture flipping versus not. So anyway, this was my first foray back into furniture flipping after that little hiatus. And I definitely had forgotten some things. So I definitely made some mistakes in this project. But it was, like I said, it was a really good learning project. And I'm glad I did it. It was really exciting to have done because it made such a big difference in the room. Like it just looked so much better in this space once we get to the afters I'll show you. But enough about that. So, what I was working on there as I was just cleaning up the table after stripping, now I'm working on the chairs. So, I popped in the spray paint that I used here. And then also, if you are going to be spray painting, I definitely recommend this little nozzle that I'm holding that's attached to the can here. It helps you get a more even coating of spray paint, and then also it helps prevent like your finger from cramping from pressing that like teeny tiny little button. um, I am not the best at spray painting because it does require a lot of patience, and it's best if you do, like, I know the proper technique, I just don't always follow it. So, and this was also a really hot day, and it is harder to spray paint on really hot days. It dries really quickly, but um, can be a little bit more difficult to get like an even finish when it's very warm outside. So also it was humid, so that plays a role too. But anyway, so it's best to do these kind of like short bursts of spray paint, like, and you just go over an area once and then come back after it's dried and do multiple coats versus like going back and forth with a sprayer or at one time to get a more thorough coating of paint on. You're going to end up with more drips that way versus doing the short little strokes, getting some coverage, and then just coming back and repeating in layers. So that is the best way to do it. I don't always follow that depending on how patient I am, but I was also a bit on a time crunch when I was refinishing this project because it was a weekend project. I wanted to get this done in the weekend. I think my husband and son had gone out of town, and so I was like really trying to get this done before they got back. And because I like had time, so I was like, oh my gosh, let me get this done. So, oh, also, do not mind the like half assembled playset behind me. This was gifted to us by our lovely next door neighbors. It was such a nice gift, and it just took us a while to actually get it all the way into the backyard and assembled, but it has been assembled. This is an older video. Because like I said, it's like one of my first, I think it was like my first flipping project getting back into furniture flipping. But anyway, that playset is assembled. You'll see later on in the video, actually, because this was a learning opportunity. I do go back and fix some of my mistakes later. I don't have any footage of going back and fixing it, but I do have like new after footage, if that makes sense. So, anyway, stay tuned for that. And I think I'm gonna let the music play for a few minutes while I keep working on this refinishing project.
we made it. Let's get it on, we got it going, stay strong. Oh, it looks like we. It looks like we. Yeah, it looks like we made it. Let's get it on, we got it going, stay strong. Oh, it looks like we made it. Wake me from this dream I've been in. I need to get in closer to you. I swear you might not see. Oh baby, I've been waiting for you. Now we are one step closer. We're all in this together. Put your hand in mine. Yeah, we are one step closer. Can you feel it, baby? It's the end of the line. It looks like we made it. Let's get it on, we got it going, moving on. Oh, it looks like we made it. Let's get it on, we got it going, stay strong. Oh, it looks like we. It looks like we. Yeah, it looks like we made it. Let's get it on, we got it going, stay strong. Oh, it looks like we made it. Yeah, it looks like we.
Okay, so this clip here, I'm starting the actual bleaching process after stripping the piece, and I wanted to just kind of go over what that process looks like. So I bought a low splash kind of gel type bleach, just to minimize the risk of spilling and splashing. And then also you definitely want to be in a well ventilated space, and then wearing eye and eye protection, and then also probably a respirator, especially if you're like prone to lung issues. So anyway, I applied a layer of bleach to the table and then just let it sit for 30 minutes. That is literally it. So you repeat that process until you get to the desired finish that you want. But you'll see that letting that bleach sit and like dry on the table allows it to really lighten up the wood. I think because this was such a hot and humid day, I had to do more coats of bleach because it dried so fast before it was like really done doing the bleaching job, if that makes sense. So I ended up doing 4 coats total on the top and the pedestal base. As you'll see later, I'll go over it again, but the pedestal base did not come out evenly, and it didn't match the top. So I ended up going with a plan B, and I ended up painting the pedestal black, like the same black as the chairs. So it is what it is. It wasn't the way I wanted it to be, but originally, but I do still really love the look of the table. So I just wanted to go over that process a little bit. It's really simple, and I really, really like the finish that it produced.
It looks like we. It looks like we. It looks like we made it. It looks like we. Oh, it looks like we made it.
Okay, so here is what the wood looks like after 2 coats of bleach. I think, well, the bottom or the pedestal, whatever, has only had 1 coat. I think I'm gonna do at least one more coat and then I'll check in. I think I was planning to do 4 originally, but it's actually gotten lighter more quickly than I thought it would, and that's probably because I removed so much of the stain. Like I removed all of it. I stripped it and then I sanded it a bunch. So, all right, well, I'm gonna put another layer of the bleach on and we'll see what it looks like in about 20 minutes. Okay, so here I have completed the bleaching process. And what I did is I applied 4 coats of bleach, let it sit for 30 minutes in between, and then kept repeating that until for 4 times. And then on the final time, after I had gotten to like the shade that I was wanting, I actually used water to wipe off the any excess bleach to prevent it from continuing the bleaching process. And then I'm working on, so after I wiped it with just plain water, then I actually cleaned it as well with, I think Dawn dish soap. You don't want to apply the Dawn dish soap to the bleach, to avoid a chemical reaction. But anyway, so 2 things I wanted to note here. As you can see, the pedestal does not look as good as the top. I know it's a little bit hard to see the top because it's not like a direct down angle of the camera, but the top was very even. The bleaching looked really even across the board. And on the bottom, on the pedestal, it just did not look even. And I felt like it was still pulling orange pretty significantly. So I just did not want to leave it in that state. And so that's when I kind of moved to plan B of instead painting, which I'll get started on in just in a little bit in this clip. The other thing I wanted to note here is I made one error when I was applying this poly. So I'm using the crystal clear poly by Bear in I think semi-gloss. Yeah, semi-gloss. And I ended up applying 3 or 4 coats. I can't remember. I think I did 4 because it's a dining table, like I said, and gets a lot of heavy traffic and cleaning regularly. I did not sand in between coats because I was in a hurry, and that was a mistake because as you can see in the when we get to the after photos, you can tell the spots where I didn't sand. So, about a year after I did this original flip, I redid the top. So I like stripped off the top layer. I think I just sanded it. And then I resealed it and I sanded in between coats, and it looks much better. So I have pictures of that as well. So I'll explain when we get to the before and after which one is which. But you'll also probably be able to tell. And that made a big difference. I think I just kind of forgot about that step or thought it wasn't necessary, but it definitely is. So highly recommend sanding in between coats, so you can get the finish that you want for your poly. And then also, I feel like there was one other thing that I was going to say about. Oh, I also finished when I did the kind of refinishing where I sanded off the top layer of finish and resealed it. I also did this whole process to the center leaf on the table because I did not originally do this on the center leaf. I just left it in the original finish. So I did that all as like kind of one project where I refinished the top and then resealed it and then did the center leaf. And I kind of was thinking maybe this is just going to be an annual thing where I have to do resealing once a year, but I think probably not. It's been about a year since I did the redo, so it's been 2 years since this original DIY, and it does not need to be redone at this point. So I think part of the reason why it could be is my toddler now prefers sitting at the kitchen bar, the peninsula that we have in our kitchen versus the table. And he's also just not as messy of an eater. So, because he's 4.5 now versus 2, So there's a big jump in that skill level there in eating between those 2 years. So I'm not having to like scrub the table as hard to like get food particles off. So I think that's part of the reason why it's not having to be redone. But as I record this voiceover, I am pregnant with baby number 2. So once she is here and moves to eating solid food, so I might have to go back to redoing this once a year. But it was a lot easier. The redo was much quicker than like doing this whole flip. So that's okay. And then I also have had to do a couple touch-ups on the black paint on the chairs and the pedestal base, but pretty minor. Just like here and there. And I don't even have to like take it outside. I can just like spot do it in the kitchen. So yeah, it's held up really nicely. So we are going to be finishing up here in a minute and then moving on to the before and afters. And so, like I said, I'll hop back on and kind of talk about which before and after which after is the one where I had not done a great job with the poly. And then I'll show you the one where I fixed it. So stay tuned for that.
I'm on an island in your room. You're like the sky sand behind the blue. I'm thinking about you, and I'm thinking about you, all the things we could do if I was sober enough. And so you met my friend. This party's not that amazing. Your friends are skin and bones. She can never replace me. How to kiss looks kinda gross. Guess I'm acting crazy, but I can't hold it back. They don't know how it feels. I'm the best you'll never have. The best you'll never have. Next day, first I regret it. Had to find a cure for my headache. I went out walking with my pug. Saw my crush with his ex, oh my god. Now that it's over, I love my hangover. And nobody's here to mess up. I'm free. This party's not that amazing. Your friends are skin and bones. She can never replace me. How to kiss looks kinda gross. Guess I'm acting crazy, but I can't hold it back. They don't know how it feels. I'm the best.
Okay, so this is what I was alluding to when I was talking about the issue with the poly. So it's a bit uneven here on the top, as you can see. So this was after I originally did it. And then in just a minute here, we'll get to when I re-completed it right here. So this was after I took it back out and like resanded it down and did the poly correctly. You can also tell that the playground is now assembled. So that's how you can also tell that time has passed. So overall, really pleased with the look. I'm still so happy with how this came out, and I just love this table still, and we use it every day. So this is that same clip of it being redone, and you'll see in just a minute, it is still a little bit uneven here. Like this area of the table gets more wear and tear because that's where my son sat. But overall, it is more even than it was previously. And I am still, like I said, just really pleased with how this came out. So definitely let me know what you guys think of this before and after in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and be sure to stay tuned for next week's video. We're going to be going over my food prep routine.
You'll never